A broken down truck, a crying newborn, a woman barefoot in the cold, shivering as the wind cut through the silence of the farmland, and a farmer calloused hands, weathered soul who never expected the name she'd whisper would reopen a chapter. He buried 12 years ago. Asterisk, asterisk. The engine of Jacob Reed's rusting Chevy roared weakly under the freezing dawn sky. The radio was busted, heater barely working, and the road in front of him was slick with black ice. He wasn't heading anywhere in particular, just driving, to shake the silence of an empty house that hadn't heard a woman's laughter in over a decade. That's when he saw her, barefoot, trembling, a woman wearing an oversized hoodie soaked at the sleeves, cradling a newborn wrapped in nothing more than a thin hospital blanket. She stood at the edge of the dirt road like a ghost, her hair tangled from the wind, eyes wide with panic, scanning the horizon for help that hadn't come. Jacob slammed the brakes. His tires skidded slightly before coming to a halt. For half a second, he just stared, not because of her beauty, though there was something fragile and haunted about her, but because no one stood out there, unless they were running from something or someone. He rolled down the window. "Hey, get in before the wind kills you." She hesitated, looked behind her like she expected someone to leap out from the brush. Her lips trembled. "Please, I didn't know where else to go." "I'm not going to ask questions. Just get in." She opened the passenger door slowly, shielding the baby's face from the cold. Jacob reached across, grabbed a spare flannel shirt from the back seat, and handed it over. "Wrap that around the little one." "You're shaking." "Thank you," she whispered, sliding in. He glanced at her feet, red, raw, blistered. "You walk here?" She didn't answer, just looked down. Her arms were shaking. "I got boots in the back." "They'll be too big but warmer than nothing." The baby started to cry, a soft, rasping wail. Jacob glanced sideways and softened his voice. "Boy or girl?" "Girl," she whispered, her voice cracking. They drove in silence for a while. The old heater hissed but pushed enough warm air to stop the shaking. Jacob didn't pry. He never did. People who wanted help didn't always want questions, but something gnawed at his gut. The way she kept looking out the back window, the faint bruise near her temple, the fact she had no shoes. "You hungry?" he finally asked. "I got some stew left over at the house." Her eyes welled up. "I haven't eaten since yesterday morning." "You both will, then." She nodded. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Then, as they turned the last bend toward the farm, she spoke quiet, like it hurt to say, "My name's Ava McConnell." Jacob's hands locked on the steering wheel. The truck veered slightly. He slammed the brake. Dust kicked up. His jaw clenched. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. He turned slowly to her, voice hoarse. "What did you just say?" She looked at him, her own eyes wide now. Eva McConnell. Why?" Jacob stared at her like he was seeing a ghost. Because 12 years ago, that name was engraved on a marble headstone. His FINCEAQE. The woman who disappeared and was declared dead, except she was sitting in his truck now, with a baby in her arms, and eyes that held stories darker than any grave. And suddenly, everything about that cold morning changed. Asterisk, asterisk. The wind outside howled against the truck's rusted frame, but the silence inside was louder. Jacob's knuckles were pale against the steering wheel, his breath shallow. He stared straight ahead, as if afraid looking at her again would confirm something too wild to be true. Eva McConnell. His Eva, but not. She was older, thinner, her cheeks hollow from exhaustion, her skin pale and bruised. Her eyes, once full of wildfire, were now dimmed, like someone who'd spent years behind locked doors. The baby whimpered. He blinked, his voice a raw whisper. "Why are you alive?" Eva swallowed hard, hugging the infant closer. "Jacob, I never wanted you to find out like this." "You were declared dead," he snapped. 12 damn years ago. They found your blood in that motel room. DNA confirmed. The cops told your parents? I know what they told you, she said softly. I know, and I wanted to reach out so many times. But if I did, he would have found me. Jacob slowly turned toward her now, eyes burning. Who? Eva. Closed her eyes. The man I left you for. There, the wound reopened. Instantly, Jacob leaned back like she'd hit him with a hammer. You ran off with a man. That's what happened. That's what I agreed for. That's what I buried you over? No, Jacob. I didn't know what I was doing. I was 21. He promised me freedom. Said you'd hold me back. That you were too simple. That farm life wasn't for me. His face turned to stone, but the moment I got into his car, she whispered, I realized I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. Jacob didn't speak. His breath came heavy, his eyes locked on the dashboard. He hit me within the first week, she said. Told me if I ever tried to leave, he'd make sure no one ever found me. So I stayed. For years. And when I tried to run, Jacob turned sharply to her now. That blood at the motel, was it real? She nodded. He staged it. Beat me until I passed out. Smashed furniture. Left my ID. Told the police I was a drifter, probably attacked by someone. Then he paid a dirty detective to write up the rest. Jacob's throat tightened. I cried over your grave. I screamed your name. I drank myself nearly blind for months. You left me with a ghost. Tears ran down Ava's face now, soaking the baby's blanket. I know. And if you want me to walk away, I will. I needed help. For her. Jacob looked down at the child now for the first time tiny, barely a few days old. Her lips moved softly in sleep. The baby's hand clutched a fraying corner of the blanket with the kind of innocence the world didn't deserve. What's her name? He asked quietly. Hope, she whispered. Jacob exhaled. Slow, wounded, real. Figures. She reached for the door handle. I shouldn't have come here. No, Jacob said, his voice firm now. You're staying. She froze. Looked out over the snowy fields ahead. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I want to. But you're not sleeping on the side of a road with a newborn. Not in this weather. Not while I'm still breathing. Ava wiped her tears. Why are you being kind to me? After everything? He pulled the truck forward, eyes on the path. Because you're not the only one who made mistakes. The silence that followed wasn't tense. It was heavy with awe. The years they'd lost, asterisk, the house hadn't changed much. Same chip porch steps. Same creaky screen door that always slammed if you didn't catch it in time. But it felt different when Eva stepped inside, her baby in her arms and the air thick with old memories. Jacob flicked on the lights. The yellow kitchen bulb buzzed. Overhead, and the wood stove in the living room had already begun to hum from when he fired it up earlier that morning. He grabbed a folded quilt off the couch and handed it to her wordlessly. Sit, he said. She hesitated. Are you sure? You're holding a baby, Eva, not a grenade. She half laughed through a broken breath and eased herself down onto the couch. The cushion sank beneath her weight. Hope stirred and whimpered softly. Eva began rocking her. Instinctively, Jacob moved into the kitchen. Cabinets open. A pot clanked on the stove. She watched him, still unsure if she was dreaming or if fate had cruelly handed her this. One mercy after everything she'd been through. The smell of warm beef stew started to rise. She looked down. Her toes were bandaged now. Jacob had handed her peroxide, gauze, and socks before doing it himself, carefully, quietly, as if he didn't want to make a big deal of it. Your hands, she said softly. They're still the same. He didn't look up. Weathered, you mean? Gentle, she corrected. Jacob paused, then shrugged. Life hardens everything, but what you choose to protect. She swallowed the lump rising. In her throat. I kept your letters. That made him stop. He turned slowly. What letters? The ones you used to write when I was away for college. before I left you. I never threw them out. Even when I was hiding, I kept them in a Ziploc bag under a loose floorboard. Jacob stared at her. Asterisk. You never really left me, Jacob, she said, tears pooling again. Even when I told myself I hated you. Even when I tried to believe that life with him was better. I read those letters over and over, whenever I wanted, to remember who I used to be. He turned back to the stove. You didn't hate me. You hated how good it felt to be loved. Eva closed her eyes. Silence fell again, thick and aching. Then she whispered, Do you want to hold her? Jacob's hands froze above the counter. The spoon dropped into the pot. He turned, face uncertain. I've never... She... Won't bite, Eva said with a faint smile. Jacob walked slowly toward her, each step hesitant. She lifted the tiny bundle gently into his arms. For a moment, he just stood there, stiff, unsure what to do with something so fragile. But then hope opened her eyes. Big hazel brown. So familiar it made something stir in him, like an echo from a life that never got to happen. He shifted her carefully into the crook of his arm. Hey there, little one, he murmured. You giving your mama trouble? Hope's eyelids fluttered, then settled. Jacob stared down at her, something inside him softening. Is she his? He asked. Quietly. Eva shook her head. No, he's not even alive anymore. Jacob's jaw tensed. What happened? She hesitated. Let's just say, when I finally escaped, someone helped me disappear. A woman at the shelter. She changed my name, got me out. He tried to come after me once. But then he got into a fight with someone else. Didn't walk away. Jacob said nothing. He rocked the baby lightly in his arms. I never mourned him, Eva whispered. Not once. But you... I mourned you every night. Jacob didn't respond right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower than before. You have no idea how many nights I sat on this porch wondering what I did wrong. You love me, she said. That's what scared me. The baby gurgled softly. Jacob looked down again, his lips curling slightly. She looks like you. Eva wiped her face. I hoped she'd look like the girl I used to be. Jacob met her eyes, and for a split second, it was like nothing had ever happened. But too much had. Asterisk, asterisk, 3 days passed. The sky outside stayed gray. Snow clung stubbornly to the edges of the fields. And Jacob's old barn groaned in the wind like it remembered too much. Inside, the quiet rhythm of something new began. Jacob fixed the leaking faucet in the kitchen. Eva made tea from old chamomile bags. Hope cried often, but she also laughed, a sound Jacob hadn't heard in that house in over a decade. It filled the walls with something he didn't know he'd missed until it returned. He found himself watching Eva more than he liked to admit. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she focused. The way she talked to Hope in whispers. Like she was still learning to be a mother. She walked softer now. Like someone who had learned to disappear before she was noticed. You're still afraid, he said one night, handing her a bowl of stew. Even with him gone, Eva hesitated, taking the bowl. It's hard to believe the world stops hunting you just because the hunter is dead. Jacob nodded slowly. Fair. They sat on the porch that evening, both wrapped in flannels. Hope was asleep inside. A candle burned on the kitchen counter. And for once, there was peace. Eva turned to him. Why didn't you ever leave this place? Move on? He let out a tired laugh. You really think this is the kind of face that moves on? You could have found someone else, married, had a family. I didn't want someone else, he said simply. She looked down at her hands, her voice cracking. Jacob, I'm sorry. He shook his head. You don't have to keep saying that. Yes, I do. I left you because I thought you were the safe choice. The predictable one. And when life with him got violent, all I could think about was how I gave up the only man who ever truly saw me. Jacob turned to her, his voice firm now. I looked for you. You know that, right? even after they said you were dead. Something didn't sit right. I followed every lead. I drove out to that motel 4 times, asked questions, threatened to dig up dirt myself. The sheriff told me to stop. Her breath caught. I never stopped looking, Eva. I never gave up on you. Even when the world did. Tears slid down her cheeks again. I was buried in a nightmare, she whispered. You were the only memory that kept me human. Jacob leaned back, eyes scanning the cold night sky. I ain't a perfect man, Eva, but I swore if I ever saw you again, I'd ask you one thing. She looked at him. He turned to face her. Why'd you pick him over me? She didn't flinch. Because, she said softly, you love me so purely, it terrified me. I didn't think I deserved it. I thought I'd ruin you. And in the end, I did. They sat in silence. Then Jacob whispered, You didn't ruin me. You just hollowed out the part I thought I'd never use again. Eva looked away, unable to meet his eyes. I'm not asking for a second chance, she said. I just want to survive this time. I want Hope to grow up knowing kindness, safety, a life where she's never afraid to laugh. Jacob nodded slowly. Then stay. She looked at him sharply. He gestured toward the field. That house needs paint. The roof leaks in 3 spots. I'm behind on planting. And the damn tractor won't start. You stay here, help me with the farm. I'll give you both shelter, food, safety. No questions asked. Eva stared at him. Why would you offer that? After everything? He looked down. Because kindness isn't something you give to people who deserve it. It's something you give because it's right. Asterisk, asterisk. 2 months later, the fields were alive again. Hope had her own crib, now handcrafted by Jacob out of reclaimed oak. Eva had helped sand it, her fingers raw but smiling. The baby slept better in that house than she ever had before. Some nights, Jacob would sneak into the hallway just to listen to her soft breaths through the door. It made him feel human again. Spring arrived early that year. The snow melted into the soil like it had waited just for her. New shoots began to rise from the earth green and stubborn. Jacob called it the stubborn kind of hope. And Eva knew he wasn't just talking about crops. She was stronger now. The bruises had faded. Her laugh returned in soft spurts, first around Hope, then around the barn animals, then once or twice around Jacob. It wasn't the laugh she used to have, but it was real, earned. Scarred. One morning, while hanging wet sheets in the backyard, Eva turned to him and asked, Do you believe in fate? Jacob smirked. I believe in hard work and stupid luck. That's about it. But what if it wasn't luck? She said. What if I was meant to end up right back here? Jacob didn't answer at first. Then he said, If you were, then I hope it means something better is coming for you this time. She watched him for a moment, the wind curling through her hair. I never told you the truth about Hope's name. He paused. What do you mean? She wasn't named after the idea. She was named after the word I saw painted on your barn door in my dreams. Jacob's brow furrowed. That old plank on the side of the barn, she said. Where you once painted the word hope with leftover whitewash. The day after your mother died. His breath caught. I used to dream of that door when things got really bad. It was the only place in my mind that didn't hurt. Jacob looked away, blinking hard. Eva stepped forward. You saved me, Jacob, even when I didn't deserve it. I never said you didn't, he murmured. Then she asked quietly, And what if I wanted to stay? Not just for shelter, not just to survive. What if I wanted to live again? He looked at her now. You're not the same girl I loved, he said carefully. I know. She nodded. But this version of you, he continued. The one who fights, who cries without shame, who holds her baby like the world depends on it. She's someone I could learn to love all over again. Eva stepped closer. And this version of you, she said, the one who builds cribs and makes soup and still fixes tractors in the dark. He's better than the boy I left. Hope cried softly in the background. They both turned. "I've got her," Jacob said quietly. Stepping inside, 2 years LATR Hope ran through the wheat fields in a sundress Jacob had stitched from old cotton fabric. Her giggle echoed through the acres like a song. Ava stood on the porch, barefoot, sun in her hair, a baby bump just starting to show. Jacob walked up behind her, placed a hand on her waist. "You think she'll ever know how we met?" "Yes." Eva smiled. "She doesn't need to. All that matters is she knows she was the reason we survived it." He kissed her temple. "You think we deserve this?" "No," Eva whispered. "But sometimes the cracks are where the light gets in." Jacob pulled her close, and for the first time in 12 long years, he finally felt whole again.